There is no earthly way of knowing which direction we are going. There is no knowing where we're rowing, or which way the river's flowing. Is it raining? Is it snowing? Is a hurricane a-blowing? Not a speck of light is showing, so the danger must be growing. Are the fires of hell a-glowing? Is the grisly reaper mowing? Yes! The danger must be growing, for the rowers keep on rowing, and they're certainly not showing any signs that they are slowing. Welcome to the Sunday Movie Marathon. How are we all doing?
I didn't think that would ever end.
What the fuck?
How is everyone doing today?
All terrible.
Yeah, right. Just finished watching E.T., one of the recommendations.
Nice.
Yeah.
Different to how I remember it.
I remember there being an alien in there. And what do you know? There was. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked when the alien showed up. Completely took me off guard.
Yeah. Did you like the labelling I put on the DVDs I sent both of you?
Mine was open. Mine was open already, so when it showed up, if anyone that had looked in there, just said gay porn,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which I ain't bothered about. Everyone's got their preferences.
Were you disappointed when you watched it and it was actually E.T., not actual gay porn?
I thought it was going to be gay porn, but E.T. cosplay, and I was a bit upset that it wasn't.
I'll save that
Yeah.
for a future recommendation.
I can't tell you how, like, literally, I had the lube next to me, was just ready to go, and then E.T. started playing. Oh, I'm not saying I didn't. It was just awkward to do over a little boy in E.T.
I thought it was going to be E.T. the Extra Terrestrial. That's what it said on the disc anyway. What a
Is it
shame
actually?
it was. Yeah, that's what Chris wrote on the disc he brought me.
He just wrote gay porn on mine.
Oh, right.
It's making us look like fools to the mailmen.
They didn't look inside.
To be fair, mine was open.
It was open. What?
Yeah, so he put it in like a cardboard sleeve and just sellotaped it up. And either the adhesive on the sellotape had worn out and it had just flung open, or someone had opened it because it came undone. I literally just had to slide the DVD out and that was it.
They were like, anything in here worth stealing? Look at the disc, it says gay porn on it. Maybe not.
Maybe that's why he gave it to me. I wondered why he gave me a weird look.
You have fun, man. You have fun with that. I was going to steal it, but then I didn't. It's not
I'm
my
gonna nick
thing.
it.
So should we jump straight into the recommendations for this week?
Indeed. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
So starting with me, I picked the film Waves, directed by Trey Edward Schultz. It's a film that's kind of split into two halves. The first half is about a guy called Tyler who finds out he's got a shoulder problem, meaning that he can't wrestle, which is like his passion, and also his girlfriend's pregnant. So everything falls apart, and then the other half of the film is kind of his family trying to piece the pieces back together following all the shit that goes down. So yeah, what did you guys think of Waves?
I'll let you start, Max, if you want. You can give your 2 cents.
Sure. This is my second time watching Waves. I really loved it the first time around, and this time just sort of cemented that for me. I think this is... It's definitely a far cry from Schultz's previous movie, which was It Comes at Night, which was sort of more sort of a horror type of movie. Like, not quite horror, but like maybe just... It was quite creepy. But this is completely different, and I do love it so much, especially because of how different it is. It's not what I'm used to from Trey Edward Schultz. It's like some directors, you think, oh yeah, they make this kind of movie, and then they just make it for the rest of their career, or they make a lot of those kinds of movies, like in a row. But this is Trey Edward Schultz is definitely a director I think to look out for, especially within his catalogue and how it's growing.
Mate, honestly, when you recommended this film and I read the synopsis of it, I was like, this is going to be boring. And then I watched it and I was very heavily invested. Thought it was really good. I didn't expect to be drawn into the movie as much as I did. Didn't expect to care about the storyline as much as I did, but I did. I liked especially the beginning of the movie, and maybe the first 10 to 15 minutes when it's introducing us to obviously Tyler, his girlfriend, and then Tyler's family. The camera shots, I had to Google whether the film was directed by the same guy who directed It Follows, because the camera shots were very similar in terms of, like, in the car scenes when the camera just does a 360, it just goes rotations of the characters, like with Tyler and his girlfriend. And then when he like gets back home after wrestling training, then it's just a one shot just following him into the kitchen, round up the stairs into his bedroom. I thought it was really good. I think the cinematography for this film was, like, especially for the first half, not so much the second. I think the second it just got to more static shots, but especially the opening scene in the first half of the movie, I think the camera shots were really impressive.
Yeah, definitely. The first half's like very like tense and quite claustrophobic, and I think the camera work does a good job of portraying that, and especially that opening scene, like you said, where it spins around in the car, like things like that are so incredibly well done. I'm just like, I have no clue how that was accomplished. It's just, it looks so interesting the way they did it, but I have no clue.
It feels like maybe they had like a rig in the middle of the car, or maybe they had like no roof to the car. Perhaps they cut a hole in the roof, put the camera through it. There's like I liken that to something like there's a scene in Children of Men where the camera just goes like, there's like a chase scene, the camera goes into the car and then through the car and then up over the car, and I'm not really sure how they do it.
Yeah.
I think maybe there was some sort of rig in this one.
There's a guy on YouTube you can watch called Peter McKinnon, and he reacts to behind the scenes of movies of how they got certain shots. That shot you're on about is one that he reacted to, and basically the way that shot was done is, so they're driving along, the car is passed to someone in the back of the seat, who then passes it out to someone on the other side of the seat, on the other side of the car, who's literally just laying on a piece of metal as the car's speeding along.
Mm.
It's really, just creative shots like that, being a bit more inventive.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the camera work and the cinematography. I think like when you're introduced to Tyler and his girlfriend, you see them driving down this highway and the camera's sort of spinning in circles. It's a very like carefree type of feeling that you get, that the camera work elicits. And then there's a point towards the middle where you see Tyler's dad driving to a party, and this is a very tense scene, and the camera does the same thing, but it elicits this sort of this claustrophobic feeling of like anxiety as well. So I like how they're able to like use the same technique to elicit different emotions.
Yeah.
I like during like the midpoint of the film before it transitions from one half to the other, it was very tense. Like I found myself really like sort of like glued to the screen at like what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think the first half just generally is quite like that. It's just all very tense and suspenseful.
Yeah, the dad's acting in that scene, especially like, sort of the fight they have just before obviously Tyler leaves and like, heads to this party. I think the acting in that scene I think the acting throughout all of this movie was very good. I mean, you've got the scene between Tyler, his dad, and his stepmom when they have the argument. That's really good. Then Tyler and his sister when he comes home and he's drunk and throwing up in the toilet as well. I think that was a really good scene between those characters. And then the dad scene with the daughter when they're out fishing. I think there's some of like the three scenes that like stood out to me the most. And obviously Tyler whacking his girlfriend.
Yeah. That scene, like both times I watched it, like during that scene, my stomach like just drops. Like it's such a holy shit moment. And I was worried that the second time around it wouldn't hit quite as hard and I wouldn't enjoy it as much. But somehow it still did. I still was like, oh God.
It threw me off so much because after I read the synopsis, I started the movie up as the intro credits were playing. I sort of googled the synopsis just to know what I was in for, and like as the movie went on, and like, obviously the relationship with his dad. His dad's a very stern, disciplined person. I mean, there's the scene when I think is it Tyler's told about his shoulder injury and he hasn't told anyone, and he's like doing his homework or something. His dad comes in and just starts like telling him off and telling him it's his house, all this stuff. I think you get a very good understanding of the relationship that they have in that scene specifically.
Yeah. There's like this sort of alpha rivalry going on between the two, I think.
I wouldn't say it's alpha rivalry. I would just say it's a typical American suburban household. Well, I wouldn't say typical, but it's the dad's successful, that well, the parents are successful, and they put too much pressure on their kids. I think it's especially. I think when his dad said to Tyler that it wasn't wrestling that his dad would have chosen for him, but Tyler did, and the fact that his dad says if you're going to do something, don't go half-hearted, you go all in. It definitely conveys a lot of pressure onto Tyler. And so, like, watching that scene and then finding out that his girlfriend's pregnant and that she's going to keep the kids, and then his shoulder injury and that he can't continue wrestling, and then he loses a fight because of his shoulder injury. Originally, I thought he was going to commit suicide and it would be the family dealing with him, his death. So when that scene happened, that he's arguing with his girlfriend and he just whacks her around the face, she just cracks her head on the floor. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. But you see the build-up, don't you, with his character? It's not like out of nowhere. You see all this pressure that's being put on him by mainly his father, where he's doing all this stuff. He's got to try and keep up with his schoolwork, his like wrestling work. He's also like, he plays the piano in one scene, which I love, but it just also communicates that he also has so much going on.
Do you know what?
He's like learned piano as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when he was playing in that scene. I was like, so he's pretty high up in terms of wrestling abilities. He's got to be a very good piano player as well. A few years under his belt to be able to play the music that he was playing, and then he's got homework, school, his girlfriend, and finding out that and wrestling, and then to find out that she was pregnant and that she's going to keep the kid. You can definitely understand it's just a boiling point, and I think throughout the movie, like you both said, it just, you can see the gradual build up of one thing after another until eventually it pops.
Yeah, I think the sound design and visual style really complements like that boiling point thing in the first half, and how anxious everything feels, and how you can really feel everything like starting to bubble up, and even like the score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, it's very like sparse and subtle because the soundtrack mostly is just licensed music, but that score I think adds this incredible tension to a lot of the scenes, especially that wrestling scene where he like loses because of his shoulder and basically at the end of it has to completely give up. That scene is just incredibly atmospheric and tenseful because it's just like piano sounds like slowly ringing out and these atmospheric like pad noises, but I think it works really well.
It's a horrible scene as well. To like, as soon as like he's diagnosed with this shoulder thing that he's got, the doctor basically tells him, do not do any more exercise. If you wrestle again, then you'll do yourself irreversible damage. And then after that, every time he like picks up some weights or he does some push-ups or he does wrestling, it's like horrible to watch, especially because when he's in the wrestling match, and this is the thing that sort of does him in, you can hear like the bones click together and just like scrape against each other. It's really horrible to hear and see it all happening.
Especially as an athlete like he is, dedicated to one chosen sport, like you can just imagine like the devastation that he would have had being told that news. And like when he's like, "Oh, can we just do the season and then I'll have the surgery and then spend off season recovering?" And it's like, nah, it's not going to be that simple. Like this is why, like I would feel terrible and very, very devastated getting an injury, and the fact that I just go to the gym, like there's nothing really serious about me doing it, let alone doing a professional sport and then hearing it. Like it's literally his one chosen career path is pretty much gone. And I think he's in that like sort of existential crisis moment where he doesn't really know what to do with his life. And I think the reason he like obviously doesn't tell his parents about it until obviously he has the wrestling match and loses is because of all the pressure, like we said, it just built up, and then probably the fact that he doesn't want to disappoint his dad, or maybe he's scared of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really liked the actor who played the dad as well. I thought he played the role really, really well.
Yeah, he's
'Cause
fantastic.
in the beginning of the film, in the beginning of the film, he's just very stern. You could almost say like he's unemotional. There's very little times that he ever does anything. Like his wife says during after when Tyler's incarcerated, she's like, "You just show up and play the nice guy." It definitely just felt like that during the opening part of the beginning half of the film, until he really has a chat with his daughter when they're fishing and sort of opens up. And I think that's the first time they've really spoken since obviously Tyler had killed his girlfriend and got sentenced to prison.
Yeah, it's like kind of like how a lot of guys just bottle up how they feel and their emotions and act like they're okay, which what I think that character's kind of doing. He's like keeping all his emotions in because he's like the man of the family. He has to be the strong man who's keeping it all together, but deep down inside it's killing him and he's broken just like everyone else. And that scene does an incredible job of showing that he isn't just like this monotone, emotionless guy. He's actually holding a lot in. And I love when he just lets it all out. That whole scene's incredible.
Yeah, I really liked that scene. It's probably one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
He's like projecting his own sort of insecurities onto Tyler as well, so that can't help with all the pressure that he's feeling, especially because like Tyler has built his whole life around this, or just like what his father wants from him, trying to live up to all these expectations. His like scholarship to a decent uni college is like dashed as soon as he like does his shoulder in. So like it's not just like a sport that he can't do anymore. It's like his whole life that he was building up to. And you see, like, I wouldn't say that his dad was sort of emotionless during this first half, but I would say that he was quite angry a lot of the time.
He was very disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From like Tyler's feelings, I guess. Or just because Tyler doesn't really want him to see that he's suffering as well. It's just this expectations that he's got put on him. He's got to live up to them. And I think that's something that a lot of people can probably relate to as well.
What did you guys think of the abortion scene where they were in the abortion clinic?
It's a good scene.
Great.
Especially with that woman shouting the N-word and him like getting super angry and wanting to go beat her up.
Do you know what I thought when I watched that movie? Now, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, is it a white woman that says it?
Yeah.
Imagine reading the script and they're like, "Yeah, you've got to say the N-word to a black character." You're like, I'd be like, "No, give me something else to say. I'll say anything else but that."
It's acting though, isn't it?
Yeah, she was a middle-aged white woman. I'm sure she loved to say it.
I bet her name is Karen. She's out there trying to complain to the manager.
Yeah.
I thought a scene that a line that I really liked the most, or like a scene that I liked the most, is when they're in the abortion clinic and the security guard comes in and he's like just chatting to all the patients that are there. And he's like, "I'm here for you, but you've got to be here for me. Don't go out there. Don't talk. Don't interact with the crazy ladies out there." And they're like, "Okay, that's fine." And then he walks out and Tyler just goes absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And again, you could say that adds to the build-up of obviously straight after that when they're in the car, he has a full-blown argument with his girlfriend, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. That was a great scene. I love that.
It was. I will say though, like I don't want to say Tyler was a bad person, because I think there was so much put on his shoulders. that it's understandable that he explodes in the ways that he does. Obviously, not when he hits his girlfriend and accidentally kills her, but just to react in the way that he did to find out that his girlfriend, one, didn't go through with the abortion, and then two, finding out that she wanted to keep it.
Yeah.
It's a
I think
harsh
for
build up
him,
for him.
it was kind of like he can't do what he loves now, and now he's going to have a kid. Like his whole life is going to change completely, and he has no control on it. And I think he just kind of snaps because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the movie definitely showed it that way. It's just one thing that I could understand, obviously reacting in that way, but definitely if you want to try and convince someone to do something, probably don't call them a bitch.
Yeah, probably not.
There's also like a really great line that his dad says to him. He like sits him down in his room. Tyler doesn't really like want to look at him, but he says, "We are not afforded the luxury of being average. We got to work 10 times as hard just to get anywhere." I'm like, I love that line so much.
I also like the line after that where he says something along the lines of, "I wish I had what you have now," in terms of like when the dad was growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're definitely a privileged family. I mean, the mum and dad own a business together. They got a really nice house. They've all got cars, really nice cars. They go to a good university. They've got like enough for like piano lessons, wrestling coaches, all of that stuff. So, yeah.
It's like you see the work that his father has put in. He's like asking him to look around his room and just take it all in because that's what he's provided him. Obviously, it takes Tyler's sort of expected to live up to all this and maybe work even as harder than his dad. And his dad's kind of like the villain in the first half, I will say. But there's a point at the end, towards the end, where his dad's talking to his sister Emily, and she says that she hates Tyler for what he did and that he's evil. And her dad says, "No, your brother's not evil. He was just a human being." Like, and it's like, yeah, it also speaks to his character as well, the dad. It's like he's not a bad person really. He's just like he's trying to sort of reflect on himself and what he's done. Just putting all this pressure on his son, he sort of realizes it as he's losing his wife as well.
I'm just going to jump ahead to the end of the movie just because of what we're talking about. But I love the fact the movie didn't end on knowing everyone is happy. Like it ended on a positive ending, but it wasn't necessarily the happiest one. Just the fact that obviously his dad walks into his son's room, into Tyler's room, and his wife's sitting there after them not speaking for weeks. And he just sits down, they hold hands, and then it's the scene of Emily on the bike riding, and she just sort of like sits back. And I think that's the part of the film when they really start to deal or grieve together, or they start to move on.
Yeah.
And then shows obviously the shot of his girlfriend's parents at the gravesite of their daughter.
Yeah, I love that you get like their perspective as well. It doesn't like shy away from that because their daughter's dead now. They're just like they've shown them reacting in the courtroom as well as Tyler's getting sentenced, and you see Tyler's stepmother just sobbing, and she's like crying the loudest, and they just like have to listen to her cry while their daughter's dead. It's like horrible.
Yeah, and one thing I think that was good, well, not good, but just showed really how much the other family had lost with the death of their daughter, is in the courtroom and at the gravesite. It is literally just the two parents. There's no other family members. She hasn't got any siblings. I think she was just an only kid.
Yeah.
Obviously, it would hit them harder than anyone else.
Well, this is the thing that I was thinking of during the movie, and especially in this, what Max just said in the court scene, when obviously Tyler's sentenced to life in prison for after 30 years, so he's going to be, even if he's 18, he's not going to get out until he's 50 years old. His parents are probably going to be near on their deathbeds. he's gonna miss a lot out in life. And like Max said, it's his stepmom that like obviously shows the most emotion, like physically. She obviously is not in the greatest pain, but she shows the most pain. And I was sitting there thinking throughout the movie, throughout that scene, it's like how do you how are you supposed to react in that moment? Because obviously two families have been absolutely devastated. You can say one more than the other, but I was just sitting there thinking, like, would it be okay to show any form of emotion if your son had been sentenced to prison for accidentally killing someone? It's definitely sad on both parties, and it's probably even more so for the family that has lost a kid. But yeah, it was a weird one that I was just thinking about.
Yeah.
It's all like a consequence of like just these mistakes that Tyler's making. He's not a bad guy. He's just there's a lot of pressure on him. I think there's a lot about like forgiving the people who have done you wrong. There's a lot of like people who just hate each other in this movie, or like they think they hate each other, and they've got to sort of come to terms with the fact that they're not evil. They're just people.
Well, it's again the scene where Emily and her dad are out fishing, and he says to her about not holding on to so much hate because he's seen what it does to people. And like literally in the very next scene or so, and this is a part of the film that we haven't spoke about yet, is when Emily gets boyfriend, and then him going through his own sort of journey on telling Emily that his father was an alcoholic, a drug addicted drunk who used to beat him and his mum. And it's literally like the scene after her dad tells her that he finds out that his dad's dying in the hospital, and she sort of says like you should go see him. And I think that was really good, that sort of the advice that her dad has given her, she passed on to someone else. And I even think the scenes between, I can't remember what her boyfriend's name was. Is it ever said? Luke. Like just the scenes with him and his dad, just that portion of the movie as well was really, really well, like really good. Very, very emotional.
Yeah, definitely. I love their relationship as well, Emily and Luke. I think that section's done really well. Like the writing and also their performances, it just perfectly encapsulates that like very awkward but got happy feeling of meeting someone and, you know, awkwardly starting to grow feelings for them and do all these things for the first time, and it being confusing but being nice. I think it perfectly encapsulates that feeling in those scenes.
Yeah,
it was a very because it's in between two very emotional parts. Tyler going to prison and his family having to deal with that, and then Luke dealing with his dad's death. But there's in between these very two emotional parts, there's just a spot of just where she's just happy after being completely ignored by every one of her friends, which I thought her friends are absolute cunts. I'm just going to say it. Her friends are fucking dickheads.
They were, absolutely. But I do love the contrast, though, between these two halves of the movie, because it is like a two-part movie in a way, where it switches perspective from Tyler and now to Emily to deal with the aftermath of what Tyler's done. I do like that it takes its time with all that. And then at the end, when it gets to Emily's part, it's a lot more calmer. She's forming these new relationships. She's got a new boyfriend, and she's trying to like forget about Tyler and what he did. And in the end, she sort of realizes that she probably shouldn't hold so much against him or think that he's like awful. But I do like it's. I don't want to say like a cool down period, but it's like that's basically what it is. From all this like chaotic energy that Tyler's half has just created, now it's all just sort of disappeared, and it's just sort of left with this solemn, just sad feeling. But it's also quite uplifting.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, we transition from the scenes just before Emily takes over as the lead. We transition from obviously his dad driving down, and there's some really intense music playing in the background. If his dad driving down, obviously the highway after Tyler in this house, just walking around absolutely off his face. And it goes from that to then the scenes with Emily, where it is just very calm, quiet. There's long stretches of her not speaking, of no one speaking. You don't really see her interact. I don't even think you see her, other than the scene with her dad fishing. I don't think you see her interact with her parents outside the courtroom scene and that fishing scene. So it definitely, the way that that's done as well, where it's the second half is predominantly Emily's perspective, and then it occasionally shifts to her dad and the stepmom. It just shows the disconnect between the family and how just little everyone is communicating and how just much that's exacerbating things.
Yeah, definitely. Something we've not brought up that I love about the film is the different use of aspect ratios throughout. Because the film starts off obviously in 16:9, like full screen, and then slowly over the first half, it like throughout the scenes, it gets slightly tighter and tighter until it's in 4:3. Like basically it's to make the camera and visuals look much more claustrophobic and enclosed on the characters. And then in the second half, if things get a bit more positive, it does the complete opposite and it slowly gets less tight until it eventually finishes back in full screen. And I love the way they do that so much.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't even recognise or realise that it went to 4:3.
Really?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Subconsciously, maybe I may have noticed, which added to the fact that I found that part of the film. I'm guessing, are you talking about the part where they had just had an argument and it's Tyler's dad tracking him down, him at the party?
It cuts to 4:3 in between when he punches her and when it cuts to black when he hits her and she falls on the ground, and then it's 4:3. Like before that, it's still tighter. Like it's still not a full screen, but it's not a square aspect ratio yet. And it
I didn't
switches
even realise,
in the two.
in all fairness, but I think I was just so engrossed in the film at that point that I really didn't notice.
Yeah, I definitely didn't notice when it gradually got tighter, but I think that's something that you're not supposed to notice consciously. It's sort of because you do feel this build-up of anxiety and chaos, and I think that's also a big cause of that, even if you don't recognize it consciously, but it's definitely going on subconsciously.
Yeah.
I love the scene, when they play I Am a God by Kanye West. That's I do like that song, but in this scene and in this movie, it works so well, especially to, show how Tyler is feeling, because he's high and he's drunk and he's just trying to get his girlfriend back. I guess he's seen her with some other guy on Instagram, and it really speaks to his mindset and how he's feeling. Maybe he feels quite invincible as he's trying to he steals the car and he goes to the party. It's like this huge thumping song. It's brilliant.
We also get signs from stuff that his girlfriend says, that maybe he's not the best person ever, especially when they're having the argument and she's he has no idea about any of her friends. She says about obviously the guy that Tyler thinks she's slept with is gay and her best friend, and she's like, yeah, you didn't take a chance to get to know any of my friends.
Yeah.
I don't know, just maybe that and the way that he reacted in both scenes about obviously the pregnancy. I just think that shows maybe he's not entirely the best person.
Well, he's so self-obsessed, but it's sort of something that's kind of been pushed in by his father as well, to sort of be someone who's all about him, he's the only person he can count on. So maybe he hasn't taken time to get to know her friends. And that was, I sort of noticed that more this time around than I did the first time. But it definitely speaks to just how he has lived his life and how his father has pushed him.
Yeah, well, his stepmom says to his dad, doesn't he? You did this, you pushed him. And she just screams it 3 times at him.
That was great, yeah. I love that argument scene as well. He's like, you're not here, like mentally, you're not like consciously here. Like I've got to be the man around the house and do everything. He doesn't realize that he's sort of pushed her away, and then she says that she can't even look at him because he reminds her too much of Tyler. It's like a horrible scene. You can see, and there's great acting from both of the actors as well. Especially like you can see she leaves him afterwards, in the room, and then he's just sort of knelt on his knees on the bed, and just sort of you can see everything that he's feeling from his face.
Yeah. Going back to you bringing up that I Am a God sequence, which I agree is an incredible sequence. I just love the use of music in the film generally. Basically, it's got a soundtrack that's heavily filled with loads of different licensed music. Schultz was inspired by Dazed and Confused and Boogie Nights, because they're like films where music is basically like a extra character in the film, and the emotional arcs and stuff are complemented by the music that he picks. So he wanted to do that with this. He listened to Frank Ocean's Endless and Blonde, as well as Kanye West's Yeezus and Life of Pablo on loop, and took heavy influence from them and picked loads of songs from them. But there's loads of incredible scenes that are made better by the songs they pick, like that I Am a God scene. The song Be Above It by Tame Impala plays 3 times in the film. It plays in the opening sequence. 2 different versions of it plays. It plays the original version of the song and a live version. And also when he's walking through that party to find his girlfriend, a remix of it plays like very briefly. You can barely hear it, but it plays a little bit.
Well, he's saying it as well. He's like saying that, like repeating the lyrics like some sort of mantra.
Yeah.
There's a great, like, I hesitate to call it a scene, but it sort of is. He goes to the party and he goes into the bathroom, washes his hands, and he's just like whispering, "Gotta be above it, gotta be above it." And then he just like pauses and looks at his hands. I'm like, yeah, it's a great little piece.
It's great. Yeah, I also love when Tyler and his friends are rapping Kendrick Lamar's Backstreet Freestyle on the beach. I really love that scene. And also
with the big bonfire as well.
Yeah, also the final scene in the film where it plays True Love Waits by Radiohead. It's already a song that I find very emotional. It's like a very heartbreaking song, and the way he uses it in the film is just so beautiful, and it gets me every time.
That's another use of a Radiohead song from movies that we watched. We watched one last week called Filth, and they used a Radiohead song in there, but it was not as well utilised.
Definitely not. But yeah, the music all throughout was incredible. This has probably one of my favourite soundtracks used of all licensed music in any film.
Yeah. I may not like listen to the music that they're playing in this movie, some of it, but not all of it. But I do agree. I think this is probably like the best use of music in like soundtrack licensed music that I've seen in a movie. It just works so well.
Has anyone else got anything to say about the film?
No, I think we've spoken about everything. I've made all the points that I picked up on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice. Let's go on to the ratings. What are we going to say out of?
Well, I originally thought of one, but then I thought maybe that's not the best one to choose. So we'll go with jail sentences.
Nice.
Poor guy.
Yeah, this is an incredible movie. I was really worried that I'd watch it a second time around and wouldn't enjoy it quite as much. Like, I was worried that I wouldn't find the first half quite as, like, suspenseful and tense, and wouldn't find the second half quite as, like, emotional. But it hit me harder than it did the first time. I cried like a baby at the end. And yeah, I love this film. I think it's pretty much perfect. I'm going to give it 10 jail sentences out of 10.
Oh, very
Nice.
good, very good.
Yeah.
What about you, Mecca?
I think this movie is pretty much perfect. I love it. Definitely gonna check out whatever Trey Schultz does next. This is his best movie that I've seen by far. I think it's quite a simple story, but it's told with very complex emotions, and great cinematography, great soundtrack, brilliant acting. I also cried a hell of a lot, especially during like the last scenes of the movie, or like more in Emily's part, I guess. I'm gonna give it 10 jail sentences out of 10. Beautiful movie.
Oh yeah. Well, you already know my opinion of it. We've just spoken about the movie for, pardon me, for about 40 minutes. Very good movie. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. I say this about a lot of movies. I didn't expect to enjoy them as much as I did. But I'm always pleasantly surprised when a movie just takes me off guard as much as this one did, especially the fact that I thought it was going in two different directions, and then it just completely hit me with a left hook. Did not notice it. So I'm also going to give this movie a 10 out of 10 jail sentences.
Nice.
Ooh, spicy.
The first perfect score. Yeah, first perfect score in the recommendations.
Nope. You forgot
No.
about the Cornetto trilogy.
I said in the recommendations.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough. All right. That brings us
Perfect
on
movie.
to Max's film then.
I got a movie that I recommended last week. It's called Blade Runner from the year 1982, directed by Ridley Scott. This is set in a dystopian future of 2019. Of course, that was the future in 1982. In Los Angeles, where bioengineered synthetic humans, known as replicants, are sent off-world to work on space colonies. One group of rogue replicants escape to come back to Earth, and it is up to ex-cop / Blade Runner Rick Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, to come back to the Force and hunt them down. What did we think of this movie?
I will say this is definitely a movie that if you're going to watch, you're going to need to watch it a few times. I did not have a fucking clue what was going on. I understood what it was about. I got that, but I didn't understand how characters got to certain conclusions. I really don't like. There's a scene in the movie where one of the guys who's like one of the criminals, just walks up to Harrison Ford's character and like gets into a fight with him and then just dies. Like, the movie was good, don't get me wrong. It definitely needs a second watch, and I probably will watch it at some point during like later this year. But like it's definitely, you need to be on it to watch this film. I was a little bit distracted from maybe the first quarter of the movie, probably didn't help. But just like watching the film, I was like, how did we get here? Who did you talk to?
Yeah, it is a film where there's like quite a lot going on, so it's understandable if you don't take it all in first time around. I think the first time I watched it I was about 10, so I had no clue what was going on. I remember really not liking it the first time around because I was like, this is boring, it's just really slow. But the second time around I watched it a few years later and enjoyed it a lot, and now it's in like my top 20 favourite films of all time. I love this movie. It's so incredible.
I will say,
Yeah.
like, that is definitely something I felt watching it, that it was it was quite a boring movie at times. There were scenes where I was just like, can we get to the next one, please, or can we speed it up a little bit? Again, not saying it's a bad movie. It can be boring and be good. And yeah, like you, maybe I will need a second time watching it. But one thing I want to point out quickly is, why the fuck was every film that was set during the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when it depicts the future, why does every fucking future look the same, where it's just like unrecognizable? And I don't mean like in the sense that it's so far in the future, it's just not recognizable compared to where they are now. It's that when we were in Harrison Ford's house, I was like, where the fuck are you? Where's your bedroom? Where's the living room? It's just like every one of these movies that depicts the future, and you can definitely tell this is a Ridley Scott movie because some of the set designs, especially the interior structure of like some of the houses and buildings is very reminiscent of some of the scenes in Aliens. Um, it's just it always baffles me that they always look the same. It's always dirty. It's so crowded. It just I don't know. Whenever I watch a movie that depicts the future and the future is depicted the exact same, I'm just like, why? Why is it always? They've got flying cars, but yet everything looks like shit.
Well, it's kind of just like it's inspired by real life LA, and they want to create something that feels like it's a real city that's lived in and real. And a lot of it's like set more in like the slums of LA more than like the glamorous side. So I feel like that's probably why it looks so dirty and gritty. It's because it's like more in the poorer side. But also,
But you take sorry, carry on.
I think they say at one point that a lot of people, like a lot of the great scientists and stuff, have left the planet and stuff. It's mostly just people who are unwell or old that are left, or criminals and stuff like that. So I don't think that helps either.
Yeah, but like you've probably still got houses that were built when the scientists were around. Why does it look like shit now? This is the same thing when I watched Total Recall that took me out of the movie. Is that was set in the future as well? I'm on about the one with Colin Firth in it, not the one that was made with. Is it Arnold Schwarzenegger in the original?
Yeah, you mean Colin Farrell?
That's the one. Yeah. Is that like it's just I don't know. It's happened in Ready Player One as well. Everything is just so like there's like 20 houses stacked on one another. I mean, looking outside my window now, even when you go to like these like high trafficked areas, at least there's some distinct features that you can tell. You can tell a house is a house. You can tell a shop's a shop. Literally, in this movie, when they're walking through the street, so it just shows a scene of the street. I couldn't tell what it was meant to be. To me, every backdrop looked the exact same because everything was just so similar.
I probably felt the same way you do, Connor. When I first watched it, I watched this movie after I'd seen the sequel, so it's like, all right, I didn't really understand what was going on in the sequel. Now I'm gonna watch this movie, see if I understand a bit more, maybe a bit more. But I didn't really take to it my first time. Now though, I love it, and I understand where you're coming from, but I don't really agree with you. I think this is a vastly different movie than the sci-fi that I'm used to, especially from that time. I think the sets are amazing. I think that LA looks just like, yeah, I know it does look like horrible, but it's like it's supposed to look horrible. And everything's very cramped in, like people are just like piled together. There's just this whole overpopulation that's saturated throughout it, and there's always like these different like signs and like advertisements or like these blimps that just shout at people, just saying like how new opportunities wait off world, just wait until you get off world. But everyone's just sort of piled into this one place. It's fairly realistic, I think, in a sense of like this is where we could end up if we like don't do anything about our current predicaments. You know, it's like the sun never shines, it's always dark. Global warming has clearly had an impact. I really love it all.
Yeah, that's one thing that I never understood why the sun was never there. I think the only time the sun has never shined for years was during like the first mass extinction, and that's because there was so much dust in the air. But did anyone notice there was a scene where people are walking through the streets of LA with umbrellas, and they've got like the umbrella stickers lit up.
Yeah.
And I was watching it like they look like lightsabers. It literally just looked like people walk around the street with lightsabers. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I love the films, the way it depicts like the future, because like you watch a lot of films that are set in the future and there's like loads of weird inventive technology and stuff, and everything looks like so like weird, like completely different to anything we have in our real world like now. And
Chris, that's
like
exactly
aliens
what happens in this movie.
No, but I mean, things are much more primitive. Like, it feels much more like things have developed, but it's still quite similar to how it is now. And like, you don't have like aliens and weird creatures and stuff like you get in a lot of future set films. It kind of just feels much realer in a way. It doesn't feel like something that's just been made up like a lot of sci-fi films can do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that anyone who watched this movie would really have wanted to be off-world by the year of 2019, just so we wouldn't have to fucking deal with the coronavirus next year. So at least they missed out on that.
I love the building and sculpture design as well, like, because they put like, instead of having like tubes and wiring and stuff on like the inside where you can't see it, it's all like on the outside and full view, and it like adds this weird character to all the sculptures and buildings and stuff.
It's like a way to communicate that LA, at least, is sort of on its last legs, and they're just trying to keep it afloat, or at least until they can get everyone off world, or like, yeah, if they could get everyone off world. But if maybe they're not going to get everyone off world, you sort of get this sense that maybe a lot of the people are kind of doomed.
Yeah, I think there will be. I think, like you said, all the important people got off planet ASAP, and what's just left is like the dirt.
It's just like it's dark, and it's like it's filled with trash everywhere, and just like all these people that are compacted together. You get like, when you walk into these sets, it's like this very hollow feeling to them. I love like how the sound design accentuates kind of the hollowscapes of a lot of these sets, especially when I think there's one where he goes into where JF Sebastian lives. It's like this hotel type place, and also with Tyrell's house as well.
Yeah, Tyrell's the guy that just had like the gold rooms, essentially, didn't he? Everything in it was just gold.
Yeah, he's this massive sort of tech genius guy who's bioengineered these replicants to send them off world to like slave colonies to do work. I love that concept as well. Just there's this whole thing about like the replicants, this rogue faction who have escaped their duties on like another world, and they've come back to Earth because they want more life. There's like a 4-year lifespan for these replicants, and they just want more of it. And it's this sort of this message in it where it's like the Tyrell motto is like more human than human, and at times it kind of blurs the lines between what one considers to be human. Like, if it can think like a human, if it can breathe like a human, if it looks like a human, why is it not human? You know, and I think that there's these villains in the movie, but I don't think, well, they're antagonists, but I don't think they're villains in a way. Like, Deckard's supposed to be hunting them down, but they're not like bad people. They're just different, you know? They're robots. And like, what should he care about killing a robot, you know?
I liked the line that is it Tyrell, the one that creates them.
Mm-hmm.
I like the line when the guy goes up to his room with Sebastian, and he's just talking about obviously wanting to live longer, and Tyrell just says to him that a candle that burns twice as bright lasts half as long, and you've burned so brightly. I thought that was a very good line in that scene. Really good.
That was fantastic.
Yeah. And then he just kills him afterwards. Gets his eyes gouged out. That was a horrible
scene. Yeah. Grips his whole face and just presses his thumbs into his eyes. It's horrible to watch. You see like the blood coming out. Yeah. Because they're like bioengineered to be like stronger than humans as well, like twice the agility, just so they're able to do these slave labor jobs.
Yes, it was kind of a daft idea to make these androids twice as strong as humans. So if they ever did rebel, you're pretty much fucked.
And that's why they've got like a 4-year lifespan as well. That's the thing that they're talking about. They've engineered these memories for the replicants, so that apparently it makes them more easier to control if they know that they're like maybe
if they have the illusion that they're human.
Yeah, or like they had this previous life that they didn't really have. Yeah, I love that.
I also liked the line where Harrison Ford's character is talking to that girl.
Rachel.
I can't remember. I think that's the one. Is that the one that comes around his house and shows him a picture of her and her mum, and he tells her that all of this stuff's just And so they do a test, don't they? Harrison Ford does a test on people to tell whether they're replicants or humans.
The Void Kampf test. Yeah.
Yeah, and she just says to him, like, "Have you ever done one on yourself?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Oh, that's a good one. Could you be a replicant?"
Could he? That's like a whole thing about this movie, is like the debate whether Rick Deckard is a replicant or not.
Mm.
Yeah. I love the opening scene, which is like a test scene between two guys. Like, the lighting of it's like very blue and icy, and it's basically just two guys talking, but the dialogue's great. Both their performances are really good, and there's something like very tense about it, like, because I feel like it's quite obvious that something's going to go down, even like if you don't know the whole thing about replicants and stuff like that. It's like very obvious something's going to go down, so you're just constantly like on the edge of your seat waiting for something to kick off, and I think that makes it super tense and suspenseful.
I will say, this film, do you say it was released in the 80s, Max?
Yeah, 82.
This film used the blue filter perfectly in the 80s, where films nowadays can't. And so I harp on it a lot, but the part that I really didn't like about Piano was the random blue filters that they put in the shots. Either for whatever reason they did it, it really threw me off. There's the part in this film where obviously you get what's his name,
Deckard, yeah.
Deckard, and so they're watching the tape of the interview that Chris was just talking about, and obviously it's projected from behind them, so it's actually lit up, and then there's just a blue filter over the both of them.
Yeah,
that was very well. That was
great uses of color, a lot of great uses of like lighting and the sets that can complement it, because there's obviously you get no like natural lighting because like the sun's not there, but you get it in all these like different lights from billboards and advertisements, or like cars and all that. There's like when you go into Tyrell's house, it's like this vast hall, but there's like a screen that has the sun on it that sort of emits the light to mimic the sun. I really love that. And like when he wanted to, he could just darken it.
Visually, just generally, the film looks incredible. Like every single shot, all the special effects, like model design, sculptures, the cinematography, and just like the general look of the film looks incredible. And I think a lot of it looks like it hasn't aged a day. Like a lot of it looks like it could have been done like shot yesterday. There's like a couple bits where some of like the compositing of the vehicles looks a little off, but it's not really that noticeable. For the most part, this film it holds up incredibly well visually.
Yeah, this is the first time I saw it on Blu-ray as well in HD, so it just looked, the colours popped even more and it looked so good.
Yeah, because you watch films, even some films today, where you just watch them. I think, like, take fucking Power Rangers that came out, which is also sci-fi, that came out a couple of years ago. Comparing that nowadays to, I think, Blade Runner, I don't think the CGI in that Power Rangers film has aged well, and that came out a couple of years ago. So it's just a testament to like how well they did back in the 80s with this film. But even with Aliens,
Power Rangers.
Yeah, well, that was just one that I thought of just because it was horrible, bad to watch. But even with Ridley Scott's other films like Aliens, that holds up well nowadays as well.
Yeah, I mean, Aliens a very well shot film. That also looks like it could have come out yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, you think of Alien Covenant and then the original Alien movie. The alien from the original Alien movie looks more realistic than the CGI shit that was in Covenant.
He's just given up.
I think that's just a problem with CGI and how it ages. Although, to be fair, Covenant looked bad when it came out.
Yeah, no, it weren't great. It didn't age well from the day it was released.
Yeah.
I will say there's a moment that I don't really like in this movie. It's like the only gripe I have with it. Sort of, it's like...
Is it when the movie starts?
No, it's when Rachel's at Deckard's apartment and like he's sort of forcing himself on her to try and like make out with her. That was sort of cringy, I guess. But apparently, like, those actors in real life hated each other, and it does show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But at the same time, like, the characters, I do believe their relationship, at least enough to believe that they find, like, they love each other, I guess. Or, like, they're attracted to each other. It's just
not great
that
when...
one moment is kind of iffy.
Yeah. It's not great when a couple on screen actually hate each other in real life.
The acting generally is really great. Everyone in it is good. I love Sean Young in it. Her performance is very subtle and it's almost like artificial. Like her performance is like a very lifeless lack of emotion there, but I think it suits her character really well. And also Rutger Hauer as the villain Roy Batty. He's an incredible villain. He's super menacing and creepy.
Rest in peace, man.
Yeah.
I got confused. This is why I'm gonna have to watch it another time. Because I got confused at the end where Roy and Deckard are like fighting each other, and Deckard's just about to die, but Roy saves him and then like just dies.
Yeah, it's a great moment.
I think it's because he reached the end of his lifespan.
Yeah, throughout this whole movie, he's sort of trying to stop this 4-year cycle from killing him, and he's like, just his hands cramping up, so he's got to like pushes a nail through his hand to sort of feel something and try to stay alive. And then there's like this split second at the end where he's just sort of snaps and thinks that I don't have to be like the animal or the monster that they think I am. So he saves Deckard in this one moment. You sort of realize that he was never a villain, but he was just, he's just been built and he wants more life. Of course you see where he's coming from. Who wouldn't want more life if they only had 4 years to live, I
don't know, man. I don't think we have 4 years to live in the current climate that we're in at the moment.
Probably not. That whole scene where Roy like saves him and then does that incredible monologue. That's like one of my favorite scenes in any film.
Yeah.
Just the monologue is fantastic. The music, the performance, the visuals, all of it is great. And I love when he his hands just open up and like that dove flies out of it. It's just incredible.
It's one of the most iconic scenes in cinematic history. That is the Tears in Rain scene.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about it.
Yeah, it was good. It's very good. I'm definitely gonna have to watch this movie again though.
I would recommend it.
This is the issue with watching films that like require a second viewing, because I can't imagine watching a film like Inception and being able to give an honest review of it after just watching it once, which is like what I feel at the moment. Like this definitely requires more than just one watch to fully get the film.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to give a review of it after only watching it the once. So what I say may be wrong, but it's because I fully don't understand this film at the moment.
It's a lot to take in, honestly. There's a lot of
there's so much.
To it.
It's very, like I said, you have to be on it all the time throughout this movie.
And even then, you might not pick up everything that's going for. I definitely didn't on my first go round. Probably why I didn't really like it that much at first. But that's sort of true of movies in general. You just sort of you gather an appreciation of the things that you maybe missed the first time round. That's why I like movies like this that you can watch again and again and get something new out of.
Yeah. The score from Vangelis is one of my favourite scores in any film as well. My dad's a huge fan of both Vangelis and Blade Runner, so he used to play me the score all the time as a kid before I was allowed to watch the film. So I have like a strong memory of it already. But it's like just very moody and atmospheric, and I love like all the uses of like vibrant anthemic synths, and then there's some moments where there's like just subtle bell chimes, like during bits where like Deckard's investigating. I think all the instrumentation and everything is so well done, and it fits everything so perfectly.
Yeah, I'll agree. It's definitely one of my favourite movie scores. It does create a palpable atmosphere, and you understand what characters are feeling in certain moments, and you understand the world that they're living in. It just accentuates a lot of the scenes and like the visuals as well.
Yeah. Obviously, Connor's only seen the film once, so I won't ask him for his interpretation of this scene, but there's a bit that I do not understand at all, and I was wondering if you had any interpretation, Max, of the unicorn scene.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down as well. What does the unicorn scene mean? I don't know, honestly. I think that I've read up on this, and like Ridley Scott's sort of hinted, or he's outright said that maybe it ties in with the fact that Deckard might be a replicant, because he's sort of had this moment to himself. He's in his apartment and he sees this unicorn, and then at the end, when he's running away with Rachel, he sees an origami unicorn outside of his door, and I think that was supposed to sort of say that this guy, what's his name, Gaff, that he sort of knows Deckard's memories, perhaps.
Yeah.
So he knows maybe that he's a replicant. I don't know if like I want to say that Deckard's a replicant or not. I'm not entirely sure, because at the time, these replicants only have a 4-year lifespan. Like, what are they saying, that Deckard's like a new type of replicant? But I'm not entirely sure.
Well, in the lore of the universe, they do, after that, those replicants, they do create new ones that don't have a limited lifespan, don't they?
Yeah. So maybe he's part of that, but honestly, I couldn't tell you. Do we like how the replicants, like the villains, this sort of group, how they died? I've got to say, like, I do love basically every death scene. There's like one, I forget her name, what was it, Zora, I think, when Deckard's sort of infiltrating this nightclub, he talks to Zora, and then she's like running away. There's a great part where she's running away from him and he has to like shoot her. She's like running through these glass plate windows, and it looks amazing with all this like artificial snow that's going up everywhere, all these colours, and it's sort of slowed down as well. I really love it. Or then like Rachel kills Leon at the end. There's like Leon's like beating up Deckard, and like I do like that scene, to be honest, but it's probably like the worst one of the replicant deaths, if we want to rank them, I guess. But she like just shoots him in the head, and his head it doesn't explode like a human head does. It's sort of like just sort of expands outwards as the whole like the bullet goes through his head, and like it looks sort of like clay in a way.
There's a lot of cool violence in the film, to be fair.
Yeah, there is. I love Pris's death as well. She's like just fucking with Deckard, just doing like these acrobatics and stuff. And then she gets shot. She's like writhing around on the floor. It's like a horror movie or something. She has to like keep shooting her. But I love that, and I especially love Roy Batty's reaction to it. He's just like, you see that he's not this robot. He's got like emotions. He actually cares about Pris, or he cares about his replicant friends. Like, he can make these connections. So I think that also adds to like Roy's character.
Yeah.
Max, did you get triggered by the name Roy at any point during this movie? Because I can just imagine that as soon as the name was mentioned, you just stared blankly at the screen for about 5 minutes and then just screamed.
We got a lot of Roys on this podcast, eh?
Yeah, there was someone in Close Encounters called Roy.
Yeah.
Did we? Have we reviewed Godsend on this, or was that before?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Please go back and watch that. Godsend. If you haven't listened to the episode, go and do it.
I'm never
But watch
watching
the
that
film
movie again.
first.
No, don't watch the
Oh,
film
yeah.
first. Stay clear of it. Robert De Niro, what were you thinking?
I like how Roy keeps like howling like a wolf as he's like sort of taunting Deckard.
Yeah.
It's like kind of embodying the animal that maybe other people think that he is, or like what do you do to a dog that bites you? You know, you put it down, and he's sort of a dog that's been being put down with this cap on his life. I love it. I think it's amazing.
There are 5 different cuts of the film. I don't know why, but there's 5 different cuts. We watched the final cut, which is the most recent one from 2007. But there was an original work print version which was shown to test audiences, which got a lot of terrible reception. A US theatrical version, an international version, which was the exact same as the US version, but they added blood and violence, which the US version took out. There was a 1992 director's cut, which was made because the work print version basically leaked and started getting like unofficial screenings. And then in 2007, obviously, Ridley Scott basically just took all the footage and everything and created a new cut, which takes away a voiceover, which was in the theatrical version, which is really shit and really cringy. There was a happy ending that they added that they took out. And obviously they add the violent scenes back in, and also the unicorn sequence, because that wasn't in the film previously.
Yeah. I gotta say, I've not seen any of these other cuts, but I like the cut that we've got now, the final cut. I think it does the film justice, for sure. I don't want to see like Harrison Ford narrating over it in like some sarcastic voice. I really don't want to hear
It just sounds bored because he didn't want to do it, so he like puts in no effort at all.
Yeah. God bless. I like how like when Deckard like meets Rachel at Tyrell's, she's like Tyrell's replicant. She's his. And then he like refers to her as like her and she. And then as soon as he learns that she's a replicant after this really long Voight-Kampff test, he starts to refer to her as it. I'm like, wow, you just change on a dime then. Like, there is absolutely no like thought to whether these replicants are like could be people or not, you know.
I've gone through all my notes. I don't know how much you have, Max.
Yeah, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One last thing I'll bring up is that the film actually opened the same month as E.T., film we're about to talk about, and the same day as The Thing.
Oh, no way.
So it was a big commercial failure because 2 huge sci-fi movies came out the same month.
What a shame. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, let's get into ratings then.
Yeah. What are the robots called?
Replicants.
All right, we'll do it out of that.
Yeah. Okay, so this film is a classic. I feel like this is just a film that everyone should watch if you're into films, regardless whether you like sci-fi or not. I would also highly recommend the sequel, 2049, which is Max's favourite film of all time.
It is.
And it is also an incredible movie. It's on Amazon Prime, so it's easily accessible. I'm going to give this film 10 replicants out of 10. Like I said, it's in my top 20 favourite films of all time. It's an incredible film.
Lovely. Yeah. I love this movie, definitely. One of my favourite movies of all time. I did have to sort of grow into it, I think, because the first time I watched it, I was not that big of a fan. I think I liked it the first time I watched it, but not like, it didn't blow me away like it does now. I just love the messaging of it. The visuals are amazing. Just the idea of like more human than human, and like these how like robotic does someone have to be before they're considered a real human being. I think the performances are great. I think the direction is fantastic. And again, yeah, I would recommend the sequel. But though these movies are quite different to each other, you know, they're not like, this is more of an action sci-fi, whereas 2049 is more of a mystery. But still both key pillars of at least science fiction movies and just film in general. You should see these movies. I'm going to give this 10 replicants out of 10.
Ooh, another 10 out of 10. Well, the acting was good. But like I said, I'm definitely going to have to watch it again. And I don't know what rating I can give this without it being dishonest, because although the acting was good, I didn't follow a lot of the film just because you have to sit there and watch it more than once. So I don't know. I can't give it a high rating because I think I'll just be lying about that. I can't give it a low rating because I don't think I've seen it enough times to really give an honest rating about it. So I'm gonna give it a 6, only because I'm definitely gonna need to watch this again to really understand everything that goes on. I liked the plot of the film as much as I could follow. I liked the acting, but that's really all I fully understood.
Hey, that's all right with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe in the future we'll just do a revisited episode of all the movies you got to watch more than once.
Bet we could do, yeah. Brilliant.
So that brings us on to the last movie, which was my recommendation, which was E.T. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched E.T. in about 20 years, so I just chose it, and it was completely different from what I remember, so maybe it was good. E.T. is about an alien that lands on Earth, gets left behind, makes friends with a kid and his family, and then his whole mission is trying to get home. So he ends up phoning home, and it gets picked up at the end.
Spoilers.
That's it. There, say again.
Spoilers.
Max puts a spoiler warning in the description, so if they've ignored that, it's their fucking fault.
He doesn't do the descriptions, I do.
Oh, well, you do it then.
Okay.
Don't ignore the descriptions, people.
So, what do we think of this movie?
Yeah, I'm like you, Connor. I haven't watched this movie in a long time. Maybe I don't even know if I've ever seen the whole thing, honestly. If I did, then I saw it when I was very, very young. Did not remember a thing about it, apart from there was a little goblin guy who wants to go home. This was good. It was a good movie. I gotta say, it sort of sagged in the middle a bit. I didn't really care for like the structuring of it. Like, it's not really anything I've never seen before, but I do think it's an incredibly wholesome movie, and it's definitely a must see. At least in terms of like Steven Spielberg and movies as a whole, it's very well made, and I really like it.
After watching this movie, I genuinely don't know what's so iconic about it, to be completely honest.
I think like the visuals are great, and like the especially like the prosthetic work, especially with like E.T. as a character. I think it's like a pillar in cinema. It's like a cinematic staple. Like the design of him, and like also like a few of the shots as well, I think are very like, yeah, that's like a classic moment.
Yeah, especially with like the bike flying over the shot of the moon. That's like one of the most famous film shots in history now.
You can tell why. It looks brilliant.
Also, the score's very like famous. A lot of people remember the themes and stuff from the film.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it about an hour and a half ago, and I can't be honest. Say again, Max.
I do remember the score, or at least like the maybe not like the individual notes, but like the vibe it gave me and like how it set the atmosphere very well. That's what I love about like John Williams. He knows how to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
There were parts in this film that I found funny that I probably shouldn't have found funny. It's the scene where E.T.'s left at home for the first time, and the kids at school, and E.T.'s just walking around the kitchen, and then he's got like the towel around him or whatever it is, and he's just walking around in the kitchen, then just falls over and face plants the floor. I burst out laughing when that happened.
Yeah,
That's a funny moment.
Supposed to be funny. That whole scene's meant to be funny. It's quite a comedic bit. Especially when he starts drinking beer, and then obviously that passes on to Elliot, who also gets drunk, and he like starts like awkwardly like saying hello to people and frees all the frogs.
Yeah, because they're like connected. Like in I don't know if you guys have seen the Twilight movies, but it's a little bit like that.
Except
I love the part where like E.T.'s like Elliot's ran E.T. a bath, and then E.T.'s sort of like testing out the bath water. He like almost drowns himself, but then it turns out that he can breathe underwater. It was just like, oh my god, he's drowning. This is so funny.
Can we just talk about how overpowered E.T. is? He can breathe on land and underwater. He's got telekinetic abilities.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's just,
He's a bit OP, isn't he?
Quite literally, yeah. Could just like kill anyone at any moment.
But maybe it's like Superman, like on his normal planet he's fine, but because our planet is so different, he's got all these powers.
Well, I think even on his own planet, if you can move things with your mind, still a bit OP.
Yeah.
He also looked like the grandma from Coco.
To be fair, E.T. kind of looks like my own grandma. She's just shrunk throughout the years and she's lost her hair.
Yeah.
So whenever I see her, I'm just like, if you grew your neck a little bit, you'd be a spitting image of E.T. But E.T. is adorable, so...
Yeah. I do love the design of E.T. I think it's really creative and unique. Like, I can't think of any alien creatures in a film before or even really after that kind of looks like him at all. I'm also glad they didn't do like just the grey oval like pool alien like they did in Close Encounters at the end. I'm glad that there's actual creativity in his design.
Well, this is the thing with most movies that involve extraterrestrials or aliens, is that their designs are very, very similar. In the last month, I've watched 3 different alien movies that the design of the aliens, albeit slightly different, are very similar. They're always either bold, like they've got a humanoid form, they got black eyes, they're always bold, it's always grey skin. Like, I watched a film called Abduction, and it's literally the same aliens from Close Encounters, but taller and with longer limbs.
A good design is always going to stand out, though, isn't it?
Well, exactly. That's why the alien from Aliens is so iconic, because it's just such a unique design and interpretation of an alien.
It's also terrifying.
Yeah, I watched it behind the scenes of that, and it's like they were going to give it eyes at one point, and Ridley Scott was like, no, it's more scary if you don't know where it's looking. So what do we all think about the acting in this film? Because it's predominantly child acting.
I thought it was like really good from the kids, honestly. Very believable, and I thought they all did
I'd agree. I didn't
job.
expect it to hold up quite as well as it was, so I didn't really remember their performances, and I thought they were all pretty decent. Like even Drew Barrymore, who plays Gertie, I think it is, the little girl. Like, she was only 7 when she did the film, but she's still really good at it.
Oh yeah, she is good. Yeah, I think it's just like a very believable relationship they all have with each other, and also with E.T.
I want to know what she does for a job to be able to afford a house like that, being a single parent. I know, like, her and her husband have just split up, and I think the kid was a bit of an arsehole when he brought that up. Made her cry. Imagine that making your mum cry.
Yeah. I haven't done that before.
I think the child dialogue is also like quite realistic in a lot of ways. It reminds me a lot of like some of the conversations I had when I was that age. Of course, in real life, there'll probably be more like F-bombs and edgy slurs, but for the most part, I think it's pretty dead on.
Well, he did call his brother a penis breath, didn't he? So
Yeah. I love that part. Like, it was nothing like that penis breath, and then his mum's just like trying to stifle her laughter.
yeah, I was gonna say she laughed during it. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
you laughed at your son getting rinsed.
It's also like they're just like, Uranus, get it? Your anus? I'm like, that's such a childish thing to say. It's like, we were definitely saying that back when we were kids.
Yeah,
When
definitely.
you learn that that's what Uranus sounds like. Yeah. There's also like a part at the like near the end where Elliot's with his mates and they're trying to escape from the government guys, and they're trying to get E.T. back to his spaceship, and then he's like, we got to get E.T. back to his home, and then one of his friends says, can't he just beam up? And then Elliot says, this is reality, Greg. That's like the best line in the whole thing.
So there's a part in the film where E.T. says, "Be good," right?
Mm-hmm. The old
Is
Iron
that
Giant
where-
line.
No, I'm thinking of Shrek 2 with the big cookie gingerbread man, and he's like in the water. And he goes, "Be good." Is that a reference to E.T.?
Probably.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
That's the first thing I thought when I saw it. I also didn't understand why E.T. died and then came back to life.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Like,
I thought like I had missed something. I like looked at my phone for like a second, and then suddenly E.T. was like washed up in this river. I'm
Yeah.
like, how did that happen?
They caught
Like-
COVID.
like E.T.'s like, yeah, I'm gonna call home. So I'm gonna wander away from where they're gonna pick me up, and he just falls into a lake and then just starts
Yeah.
dying.
I think it's because obviously where they were outside all night, Elliot gets ill. Obviously where they're connected, E.T. gets ill because of that. But E.T.'s body's obviously different, and it just basically kills him, or at least
Maybe.
stops one of his hearts. But then the other
But
one brings him back to life because he has two hearts.
I didn't even know he had two.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
bring it up briefly in that when there's loads of like they're running loads of tests and stuff on him.
But then what?
I
He just like
wonder-
leaves E.T. in the dirt. Just goes home. All right. Some friend he is.
What are you on about?
Elliot goes home, doesn't he?
Oh, he can't find him though, can he?
Where'd he
Despite
go?
the fact that his brother maybe found him in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, he was like right there.
Yeah.
But they were together, weren't they? At
Yeah.
E.T.'s like base thing that they set up. So how do they
Yeah.
get separated?
Because he gets put in that little cryo thing, doesn't he? Put into the van.
No, this is beforehand.
What are you on about?
When like they go to like the field,
Yeah.
and then E.T. has this like monitor thing set up, and then like
Yeah.
I didn't get how like Elliot just like went home, and then E.T. ended up in the river.
Yeah. I made a joke about it. He just wandered off and fell in a ditch and died. Literally. So like, he's calling home. He wanders away from where they're going to pick him up just to fall in the lake and die. That's
Yeah.
a waste of one heart, isn't it?
Yeah.
That pissed me off.
That scene where they're like all in the house and like the people in the astronaut suits like start appearing in the house and like quarantining it. That used to terrify me as a kid. Like when she
I can
opened the door
understand
and there
that.
was just like an astronaut standing there.
Do you know what
Yeah.
though? This I watched again the Alien film that I watched earlier this month called Alien Abduction did the same thing that this film did, and I really didn't understand it. So there's people in both movies. There's people in hazmat suits in a quarantined area with it sectioned off because they don't know what's going to be there if there's any like deadly pathogens to our species and stuff. But then they instantly take their hazmat gear off in the same area, or they're in their hazmat gear and there's people wandering around, not in hazmat gear. It's like,
Yeah.
and then like during the scene of E.T., the guy just like when E.T. starts dying, he rips the curtain down that is quarantining them just to get in there. And it's like, what? And then one of them like pushes it aside and then takes off his hazmat gear straight away. It's like, well, it would still be contagious. He's just ripped the fucking curtain down.
I don't think about it.
Nah, man. Came out in the 80s, so that was probably the norm back then.
Yeah,
That was
people
annoying
doing
to me,
stupid
though.
Things.
That's
So,
like,
Chris?
I said, yeah, people doing stupid things. That was the norm in the 80s.
Mm.
then like that's like a problem I have with like Spielberg movies. Is like he goes for like this schmaltzy kind of like ending or like third act where like nothing, like E.T. dies. He dies in this movie. What brings him back to life? Love.
The power of love.
The power of love. Elliot just loves him so much. Doesn't matter that he's dead.
Yeah, that's the way life works.
That'll bring him back. That just brings him back to life. Great. So that annoyed me. And then it's like at the end when E.T. goes off to his spaceship, it like blasts off, and as it leaves a rainbow. And I'm like, oh fuck you, Spielberg.
Yeah.
I hate you so much.
Anytime I watch the film and see that end sequence, like where he's like saying, "I'll be right here," and he goes in the spaceship and it like turns into a rainbow. It reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons with the film festival where Mr. Burns makes his own film and he literally just recreates that scene from E.T. and plays E.T. himself.
Yeah. It's annoying. It's like a whole Spielberg thing I don't like. He did it with like War of the Worlds as well.
Yeah.
Just like everything has to be like really nice and wholesome and happy, and everything has to work out
I don't know if you've
correctly.
seen The Mist.
That's not Spielberg.
What?
Oh, never mind then.
By Frank
But have
Darabont.
you seen The Mist?
I have, yeah.
Maybe when I was like...
Who's The Mist by?
Frank Darabont. He directed that, didn't he?
Did he? Yeah, but it's based off a Steven Spielberg book, isn't it?
Stephen King.
No, Stephen King.
Ah, fuck, it's Stephen King, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's the same
Steven
guy who did
Spielberg
it,
is a
right?
director.
Yeah.
Nice.
Why does Elliot touch E.T. at the beginning? He's like... He doesn't know what kind of like space diseases E.T. has got on him. He's like, oh, you just give me some Skittles. I'm going to grab these Skittles and just throw them on the ground. Just lead you up to my room. Come into my room. I was like,
I'm
Jesus
not gonna
Christ,
lie.
man.
I would probably do the same. Like, if you've seen an alien and it's being friendly, you probably don't give a shit.
No.
Like, you just touch it.
It also
clearly didn't give a
looks
shit.
really wrinkly. I imagine its skin would be really weird, so you'd want to touch it and see what it's like.
I imagine
What?
it'd feel like dried beef or something, or like leathery.
Yeah, like an old steak.
Yeah, something like that, where it's just really hard and
Hot, tough, yeah. Like an old grandma.
yeah. I
Loose
think
in
this
all
was
the
the
right
first film
places.
appearance that my nan made.
I think that the tension with this movie lies in like E.T. not being found and like all these near misses, and it's not something that I've never seen before. I don't really gel with the structure at all. Like I said, I got kind of bored towards like the middle, and it's just because I've seen this sort of play-by-play before, and while I enjoy the sort of the cinematic kind of elements that it's brought to this, I like just E.T. as a character. I think he's great and iconic, but the structure of it kind of leaves more to be desired.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't think there was any tension throughout this whole movie. Like even in the scenes where, like the beginning where E.T.'s running away from the people that are chasing him, it's just funny because he makes such weird noises, and all I can picture is this fat little thing running with his little tiny legs as fast as he can, making weird noises away from people. And
That
then
was like a thing that we were like making fun of beforehand, because I hadn't like seen E.T. for like, I didn't know what noises E.T. made, but other than like E.T. phone home, and then like beforehand I was just in the chat going like, blah, 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 blah. Oh my god, it's E.T. And then like that happened in the movie. I was like, oh okay.
yeah. And like the scene where she's looking in the wardrobe, that's another thing that I didn't understand. So it's when everyone's like all the kids have found out about ET, and it's the mum and the daughter at home, and the daughter's looking upstairs, and the mum like so, oh, we've got to leave, we've got to leave. She pushes the kid out, and then like for some strange reason, she just walks upstairs and goes to Elliot's closet and looks in it.
She hears a noise.
Does she?
Yeah. There's like
Oh,
some
never
sort of
mind then.
knocking about upstairs.
Oh, I didn't hear the noise. Fair enough then.
I
That
find that
makes
bit
sense.
funny when she opens the closet and he's just hidden in all the toys.
Yeah.
That's like some sort of shot that's been parodied to death now.
Yeah. I also find the scene where Gertie tries to introduce her mum to E.T. really funny, because like E.T.'s just like standing there, she's trying to get her mum's attention, and her mum accidentally knocks him over with the fridge door, and Gertie just goes, "I think you killed him already." Every time I laugh at that.
There's like a
That
part
scene
where
was
like
hilarious.
I think Elliot or someone says only kids can see him, adults can't see him, and that's sort of emulated in that scene where the mum's just sort of occupied doing her groceries and all that. She's not really looking at him, and then Gertie's like, "You got to meet my friend. I've met this. You got to meet him. This alien, mum." And she's just like, "No, you don't care." She's just too preoccupied doing whatever she's doing.
It's when E.T. used to be on the TV, and it made me laugh when he just randomly, it's just like the girl's looking at the TV, and his head just pops up, and he goes, "B,
You said B.
B." It's just like fucking hell. Mum, he can speak. Well, of course he can speak.
He can say B movie.
The version we watched of this film is the special edition version, which is quite controversial because it adds loads of clips of like CGI ET, because Spielberg thought he looked a bit too stiff. There's also 2 new scenes, and because the film came out like a few months after 9/11, like the special edition, Spielberg removed the usage of the word terrorist and replaced it with hippie, and he also took out the FBI agents' guns and replaced them with walkie-talkies.
What?
And watching it, knowing that, and seeing like all these FBI agents running around with walkie-talkies in their hands, it's just so funny. Yeah, he now regrets doing that edition, and you basically can't get the special edition anymore unless you buy the old DVD that I have. Ever since, it's just been the original version, 'cause Spielberg's like, that was a terrible decision.
Yeah, I noticed the CGI ET when like he opens up the bushes and ET's there and screams. You could like just look at it. I was like, "Oh, that looks a bit weird. That doesn't look like ET."
Honestly, that was like one of the only moments that I recognised how
Yeah, same.
CG heavy it was. The rest of the time, it just sort of looked very practical. So that didn't really grind on me.
Was it someone just in a suit, or was it a puppet?
So it was a
Like a
mixture of, I think when it was like on a close-up, it was a puppet. But if it was just like him walking around, they would switch between 2 short actors, and also like a 12-year-old who was born without legs, so they like walked weirdly.
Wow,
Right.
there's work for everyone.
Yeah, man. Like when they cover ET up in the Halloween scene in the white robe, or sorry, the sheet, and the mum takes the photo, and ET just falls backwards, and they have to pick him back up, and then just like seeing him walk around, he just fucking bobs everywhere. It's so weird.
I like when they're out and about like, on Halloween, and he sees Yoda and he starts like following him, because
Yeah, he goes home.
Yeah, because George Lucas made it canon that E.T. species exist in the Star Wars universe. 'Cause, like, you see a bunch of little E.T.s in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So does that mean ET is canon with Star Wars?
I guess, but there's also... It's weird, because there's that character who's dressed as Yoda, and there's also Elliot's got loads of Star Wars toys. So, I don't know.
Probably happens a lot later than Star Wars is set, because obviously Star Wars is set
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Maybe this is set in a universe where Star Wars was based on a true story.
Yeah, I was about to say, in a galaxy long, long ago.
Yeah.
I love like the part where E.T.'s going up the ramp of the spaceship as he goes home. I'm like, he's like really slow as well, so he's just sort of waddling. And I just
Struggles
like,
up there.
What if it took him just ages to get up the spaceship and it added like an extra 20 minutes onto the movie as we just watched him walk onto the spaceship?
It's just one long take, just him waddling his way up.
Yeah, he's waddling and he's really slow, and then like it cuts and he's like halfway up a bit, and because like he can't get all the way up there obviously with the pace that he's keeping, and then the dog just like runs up there and just like, I guess it's supposed to be like he nudges him up there, but it's like he's not even in the shot, so it just looks like the dog running up the ramp.
I want to know how E.T. species walk up and down that ramp when it's raining or wet, because there's no way he has grip on that thing. Like, all I can picture is just a bunch of ETs like falling down there.
Yeah. Obviously, he falls down a lot in the movie, so you'd think that probably that would be kind of an issue.
Yeah.
You'd think for people that are like telekinetic that they just like float each other up there. Like, ET can make himself fly up the ramp.
Maybe they do.
He wants a challenge.
Yeah, but someone saying that, then if they do fly themselves up the ramp when it's raining, so one of his species would have had to have tried getting up there when it was wet, just twatted himself on the ramp.
Like the tiny shot in Close Encounters where you see one of the kids fall over on the ramp.
Yeah.
Apparently, but when the film came out, it became the highest grossing film of all time because it was in cinemas for like a year, which is the longest theatrical run in film history still. It like stayed the highest grossing film until Jurassic Park came out, which obviously also Steven Spielberg film. Apparently, if you adjust it for inflation, still today this would be the fourth highest grossing film of all time.
Apparently, if you adjust for inflation, Titanic is the highest grossing movie of all time still.
Yeah. But alas, it isn't.
Alas, it's now Avengers Endgame.
Yeah. This was also nominated for 9 Oscars, including Best Picture. It won, I think it won 4 for Best Sound Effects, Editing, and Original Score.
So imagine the critics watching the movie like, we just saw E.T. fall over like 5 times. That's hilarious. Give it a high mark.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think this is a very sweet movie, though. Very wholesome and nice. And I do, but I also don't like a lot of what Spielberg tries to do. Just this schmaltzy attitude towards filmmaking. I don't like.
This is also what I'll call a background movie. So there's not really like, you can zone in and out of this and you still not know what's going on. There's not really much to it. It is just a story about an alien trying to get home and making friends with a family, and he's a little bit clumsy.
Yeah, I felt like it probably could have been maybe 15 minutes shorter. Could have cut out a bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Have we got anything else?
Anyone else have anything to add? I don't have anything more to say.
Ratings.
Simple ETs.
Nice. I loved this film. I think it's really sweet, wholesome, great effects. It's funny. The score's incredible. It's one of my favourite Spielberg movies, I'd say. But that may just be because I have such an emotional attachment to it because I watched it like religiously as a kid. So I'm going to give this 8 ETs out of 10.
Yeah, I do not have an emotional attachment to this movie. I understand where it's like trying to be very wholesome and family friendly, and like people just adore it so much. But maybe that's something that you need to like grow up with it to get that sort of connection with it. I didn't really feel that kind of connection with it, but I do love a lot of what it's going for. I love the character design of E.T. I love E.T. as a character. The kids were great. The score is fantastic. But it's it's let down a little bit in the middle with kind of a basic plot and story structure. I'm going to give it 7 ETs out of 10.
I'm also going to give it 7 ETs out of 10. Acting was good. The movie was funny. Just seeing E.T. get knocked over all the time and just nearly die was hilarious. Like Max said, though, at some points the film was slow. It could have been shorter. At points the film was kind of boring. I probably won't watch this again, ever. not gonna lie. I really only wanted to watch it because I was curious about what I remembered as a kid. But I would recommend watching it at least once, just for the references.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we
So,
go.
Chris, what did you give this,
There
by the
we go.
way?
An 8.
Right, that's not your highest rated movies.
2 10s and an 8.
Yeah, you gave 2 10s and a 9 last time. Not last time, the time before that.
Did I?
I'm pretty sure you did.
Really?
Yeah, because you both went 10 on 2 movies, and I went, oh, I made a comment about it. And then you went 9. I'm pretty sure I said something along the lines of you could have had 3 10s or something like that. Because I referenced that we've never rated a movie, well, 3 movies 10 out of 10. Then someone said we did with the Cornetto trilogy.
I have no idea.
I don't know. Either way, it's a pretty high rating. This was a good week for you then, Chris.
Yeah. It was indeed. That brings
So,
us to recommendations for next week.
Indeed.
Go on then, Chris. What have you got for us? What's the stored for episode 17 of the Shit Talk podcast?
I'm just going through my list now. I forgot to
None
put
of
it on
that
the
was
wheel,
even
so I'm just
remotely
going to
right.
pick something.
Would you say, Max?
I said none of the information you just said was even remotely right.
Well, I was waiting for someone to pick it up because Chris blazed over it and started talking.
Okay, I'm going to go for a film I have not seen. I have heard incredibly mixed things about it. It's like one that I think people either love or hate, so it could go either way. I like the director though, and the film is free on YouTube, which is why I've picked it. Picking the film Funny Games from 1997, directed by Mikhail Haneke.
Been meaning to see this for a while.
Yeah, same.
I used to be mates with him.
Nice. He's like 90 years old.
Age is just
Yeah.
a number, my friend.
Yeah. I don't think he speaks English either, so
Yeah, we had to communicate through sign language exclusively.
nice. Yeah, this is an Austrian film, so it's all in German.
Is it
Mhm.
subtitled?
Yeah.
Oh, this should be fun.
Thank God, because I can't speak.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not going to recommend a film where it's not subtitled and there's no dub, so you just have to listen to it in German.
Yeah. My recommendation is a 2008 musical. I've seen this a couple of times before. It's like a cult movie, I think. It says on Google that it's 2.5 hours long, but it's not. It's an hour and a half long. So it is. I'm not going to say anything about it, honestly. I just kind of want you guys to watch it and see what we all think of it. It is called Repo, the Genetic Opera, directed by Darren Lynn Bousman.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of it, but I've not seen it.
And my recommendation for the next movie is The Trial of the Chicago 7. I don't know what it's about, but I saw it on a best movies to watch on Netflix list. It was number 4.
Right.
Wow.
A
praise.
interesting pick
I've
for that list, but okay.
Well, this is it. I've
Yeah.
never seen it. It's a bit of a contrast to what everyone else has chosen.
Well,
yeah.
we'll see. I think Chris and I have seen this movie before.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. We
Oh.
both had fairly different opinions on it.
Okay. That's good. When was the last time you watched them?
It came out
Like-
last year, didn't it?
Yeah, so like a month or two ago.
Oh, really? I didn't realize it came out last year.
Yeah, it came out like October, November.
Oh, okay. Well, to be fair, what was it? Chris did an episode where he didn't watch 2 of the movies, so because he'd watched them like 10 years ago.
No, I'd watched them a couple months previously.
I'll watch it again though. Sure. Anyway, that has been episode 16. Thank you all very much for listening, and stay tuned. More episodes abound.
Mm-hmm.
See
See
you
you in
later.
the next one.